So today we're going to talk about something that affects millions of people, the permanent loan debt trap. I know, it sounds pretty intense, and honestly, it is. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what this thing is and how it really works.
You know, the source material for this whole thing kicks off with this incredibly blunt statement. There's no sugarcoating it, no jargon, just a simple, powerful warning: loan debt is a trap.
And that's the big question, isn't it? It's one thing to say debt is a trap, but how? What are the actual mechanics? How is it set? What springs it shut? And maybe most important of all, how does it keep you stuck?
To really wrap our heads around this, we've got to do a little anatomy lesson on this debt trap. We're going to take that metaphor apart piece by piece and see what it all means in the real world of money. Okay, so first things first, let's get a solid definition down. A debt trap isn't just any old debt. It's a really nasty cycle. And the key here is that the interest and fees are so high that they make it almost impossible to pay down the principal. And that's the original chunk of money you borrowed. Basically, your payments get gobbled up by fees, forcing you to stay in debt way, way longer than you ever thought you would. All right, so if we think about this like a real trap, we can break it down into three parts. First, you've got the bait. That's what tempts you in. Then you've got the trigger. That's the thing that springs the trap. And finally, there's the cage, which, well, that's what keeps you there. Let's start by looking at how the trap is set, by checking out those first two parts.
We're going to look at the bait and the trigger at the same time because honestly, you can't really have one without the other. This is all about how these loans are sold to you and what action on your part actually snaps the trap shut.
And this is where you can see the huge disconnect. The bait, the lure, is everything on the left. Get cash now, super easy approval, and look at that low monthly payment. It all seems so manageable. But the trigger, that's the harsh reality on the right. That low monthly payment is hiding a ridiculously high long-term cost, it's loaded with hidden fees, and it's powered by this relentless engine called compounding interest. That's where you end up paying interest on your interest. The moment you say yes to the promise, you've pulled the trigger. The trap is sprung.
And once that trap is sprung, you're in. You find yourself inside the cage. This is where the whole peril of permanence idea becomes terrifyingly real.
Now here is the absolute kicker. You're making your payments every single month on time. You're doing what you think is the right thing. But you look at your balance and it's barely budged. Sometimes it might even go up. It's like you're running on a financial treadmill. You're paying and paying, but you're just keeping the debt alive, not killing it. That is a state of permanent debt.
And if you're wondering how that's even possible, well, look at this. This chart shows the math behind the madness. In a situation like this, a shocking 90% of your payment is just going to interest and fees. Think about that. If your payment is, say, $200, that means 180 of it just vanishes into thin air, paying off interest. Only a tiny $20, just 10%, is actually chipping away at the original loan. When you see a split like that, it's pretty clear how you can pay for years and feel like you're getting absolutely nowhere.
Okay, so that all sounds pretty scary, right? But here's the good part. This is the empowering part. Now that we understand how the trap works, we can talk about how to spot one from a mile away before you even think about stepping in it.
So what are you looking for? What are the big red flags? Well, first up, any kind of high-pressure sales tactic. If someone is pushing you to sign right now, today, that's a huge warning. Another one is when they only want to talk about the low monthly payment. You need to ask, what's the total cost of this loan? If they get weird about answering that, be very suspicious. Also, watch out for the fine print, things like long periods where you're only paying interest or vague terms and hidden fees. And here's a really sneaky one, penalties for paying the loan off early. Think about that. They want to punish you for getting out of debt. That says it all.
And that brings us to our last thought, maybe the most important question you can ask yourself. See, debt isn't automatically evil. Sometimes it can be a tool, something you use to buy a house or start a business or get an education. But you have to know the difference. So I'll leave you with this. Take a hard look at your own finances and ask yourself, honestly, is your debt a tool that's working for you, or is it a trap that's